Well, hey, everybody, Monday night, and it's time for Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. It's been a great week since our last episode. We're up to 210 subscribers. I don't really know what that means in the grand scheme of things, but I appreciate the support. And if you're interested in finding out when we have a new live or recorded video on our YouTube channel, you just hit the little logo at the bottom right and subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and you will find out when we have new videos, both live and recorded, on our channel. We're up to our 52nd live episode right now, with more content coming each and every week. And I appreciate everyone who's taken an interest in learning about the bowling story of really people from all over the country. And that's how we do it here on Bowling with the Fef. If you're interested in being on the show, let me know. You can email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com. Let me know where you are, what, a little Cliff's Notes version of your bowling story. And we would love to have you on the show. Just so you know, Bowling with the Fef is brought to you by Chip Magnet Salsa. It is a local company, local to me anyway, here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I'm in Altoona, which is basically a suburb. But take a look at that. If you're into tacos, taco bowl, burrito, just chips and salsa. It's great for all that stuff. Again, right here, made in Wisconsin. It is distributed to 38 states and Canada. Stores in Wisconsin like Sendik's Food Markets and Woodman's. If you're in Michigan, you can go to Whole Foods and find it there. If it is not at your local grocery store, just head over to chipmagnetsalsa.com and order there. The holidays are coming up, and salsa makes a great gift, right? Chip Magnet Salsa, raise your snack standards. So I am thrilled to have our guest on tonight. He is a 3-time PBA Tour champion. He is from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and his name is Charlie Tapp. He has also been a coach. He has... What else have you done in bowling, Charlie? Coached, competed at the highest level?
Yeah, I've coached, won a few tournaments, got thrown out of a few bowling centers, kicked some racks, broke some Coke machines, a lot of things like that, just to make it more exciting.
Multiple Coke machines?
Well, no, just the one.
All right. We'll have to get to that a little later.
Actually, there was the paddock wall in the bowling center at Landmark in Peoria. So wow. I threw a double tote bag through that. It was an accident, though. It really was an accident. The throwing wasn't an accident, but going through the wall was an accident. So
all right.
And I got mad. I bowled out of the cut, or bowled out of the cash, I think. And I walked into the paddock, and the paddock was pretty small, and what they would do is they would take these cement blocks and then just put plywood on top of them, and anyway, so if I go around the corner to my little cubby hole there, and Pete Weber's standing there, and I said, "Hey Pete," and he goes, "What?" And I goes, "4." Boom! And I throw it, and it goes zinging by him and into the wall, and I hit between the studs and then right through the paddock wall and out onto the concourse. I'm like, geez, here we go. So anyway, I thought, well, I got to turn myself in. Nobody else is going to turn me in, but I got to turn myself in. So
right.
There cost me $100, and I had to pay for the wall. And
okay,
but the Coke machine I didn't have to pay for.
And the beauty of it.
I hit that and I bolted. I got the hell out of there. So
there you go. And the beauty of it is no charges were ever filed, right?
No.
There you go. Yeah.
No.
All right.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah.
I think the statute of limitations is probably gone. That was about 38 years ago. So
okay. I'm hoping so on a lot of the stuff that we talk about tonight, so we can, kind of open it up a little bit. But before we get to your story, I do want to get your take on something that happened today. I don't know if you were watching, but Jillian Martin made an announcement on YouTube that she is going to attend the University of Nebraska. She had narrowed it down to 4 different colleges. It was Nebraska, I think North Carolina, A&T, Wichita, and one other school. I can't remember the 4th. I know that on Bullstream TV, in the description of the YouTube page, they had put Nebraska there twice and then corrected it. So I was thinking there was a 50-50 shot, but she did end up saying that she would attend Nebraska. Tell me what you think about that. What do you know about Jillian? What do you know about the program, and how do they kind of mesh together?
Well, I don't really know Jillian at all, other than what I see on television, like everybody else. But I mean, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
16 years old and winning LPBA title or PWBA titles already, and fighting for shows, and I mean, that's crazy. That's almost unheard of. I mean, the only person I ever really saw do that was Pete Weber.
Yeah.
Back in, it's funny you mentioned that. Before I was walking around the house here getting ready, and I was thinking about it, that when I first started, and we bowling the rabbit squad in St. Louis, and this would have been 1979, and I went there on Sunday night with a guy named Jim Plessinger, and so Jim Plessinger and I were sitting in the bleachers they had set up the day before the PTQ, and there was this young guy bowling there with a girl, and it was Pete, and I'm like, look at this guy, And I said, oh, well, that's who that guy is. Okay, so, but yeah, I mean, but that's on that same level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just incredible. And when you're that talented, I mean, you get to pick where you want to go, because I guarantee you, she probably had 100 to choose from.
Sure.
And what I know of that program, because I've been really good friends with Bill Straub for many, many years. And he's handed it off, a few years ago now, but it's still just as strong as it's ever been. And I just think, wherever she went, she's going to make it a hell of a pretty good team, So, but yeah, it's really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, defending NCAA champions.
Yeah, somebody that age that's that good,
right?
So yeah, that's good for her. Good for her. I mean, that's awesome, and just the fact that there's so many young kids now that are so good.
Mm-hmm.
The guys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
They're just so much more advanced, and the coaching is so good. And I know there's a couple other young girls. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but boy, oh boy, I do some stuff with when I go to do some training, like with Del Warren, and when Kegel hosts some things, and he has some of the recruits and some of the kids that are training there. I mean, they're phenomenal guys, and young guys and girls. Sure. And now that I'm doing a little bit more teaching and instructing, yesterday we did a clinic. My wife and I did a clinic. Because they put a new high school pattern out for this year in Michigan.
Okay.
And so what we did was a clinic to introduce the kids to the pattern and how to play them and the strategies and so on. We had 30 kids yesterday, and I mean, the talent level is it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and the good thing is that they're seeking out instructions. Yeah. From and that's the main thing, and that's one of the big problems that bowling has, is that the lack of really good instructors and teachers.
Yeah.
And in my case, I've been fortunate enough to have friends that are just, Del Warren and Mark Baker and guys like that, and Mo Pennell, and they've got the rest of the soul, But those are guys that that I bowled on tour with and learned from, and they're just that's 1 and 1A of the bowling industry as far as instructions go. Sure. And to try to pass that along, I mean, that's kind of like in my situation. I never I've been bowling for 62 years. I never thought that this would be my career.
Yeah.
Now I'm 70 years old, and now it's my best days performing are gone. But but if I can, learn from these guys like Dal and Mark and Mo and and the list goes on, and then pass that along to kids like Jillian and a few others, that's just going to make the sport keep growing.
Yeah, for sure. Did you were saying all those years ago? Did you ever think racing would be your career?
What's really funny? That's my car. It's called a Coffin Dodger. And I got that from a friend of mine, Larry Verbal. He said, he goes, when I turned 50, he goes, are you going out on the Coffin Dodger tour? I go, what the hell are you talking about? The Coffin Dodgers. So anyway, I said, you know what? So when I bought this car, I thought, well, that's how I'm going to call it, because my stepson had one called the Coffin Shaker. So I thought, well, I'll name this the Coffin Dodger. So anyway, what's really funny is that one of the good things about Facebook is that you reconnect with a lot of people. And just in the last year, I've reconnected with a lot of guys and girls that I went to school with. And two of the guys I connected was a guy named Mike Jansky and another guy named Terry Kittleson. And Mike and Terry and I, every Saturday and every Sunday, we were at the track. Oh. And we were, if the sun was out and the track was open, we were there. And so I really, really liked it. And I got pretty good at it. And I had a couple opportunities to drive some pretty big cars, and some pretty good cars. And one was a dragster, but I turned it down. Okay. I didn't do it. I just didn't want to go that fast. And I had an incident where there was a guy that I was racing, and his car was faster than mine, and it was just a time trial thing. And he got, I don't know, however far ahead of me, 20 feet or whatever, and he lost control of it, and he flipped it over in front of me. And luckily he wasn't hurt. They had the sides of the track, it was all sand and stuff, so it stopped them immediately. And I'm like, wow, that's a little bit too close. And at that time, the cars were running, the pro stock cars were running 1020 and 1010 and a quarter. And this car here that this guy had was just an 11-second car. Well, the car that the Mustang that you see there that I had, that car run 990. So okay. That it's crazy that back in the day, the fastest door cars, they ran 10.2 seconds and 10.1 second, and now here it's 35 or 40 years later, well 50 years later actually, and I've got a car that's faster, that runs faster than those cars that were the top echelon cars. Wow. And I never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd have a car that went that fast.
Yeah.
But the safety stuff is so much better now too.
Yeah.
You're really strapped in, even like that car there, like say we ran 10 seconds or 990, 135 miles an hour, and so, you had to make sure you're strapped in. And, there were a couple of times where, it's, you got what's called a trans brake, and you just hold the button down and you floor it. And then you let go of the button and away you go. Well, when you let go of the button, it's like hitting the chest with a hammer, just a boom and away you go. and sometimes it's a little slick or whatever the case might be. And you're kind of going around like this, but you stay in it. But I got a couple of times where, like right after I launched, that all of a sudden, instead of looking down the track, I'm looking sideways at a wall, because there was something on the track that nobody could see, and took off. The car just goes sideways, and it's only happened a couple of times, but it's a little scary.
I believe it,
but it's so much fun. And it's really competitive, and and now most of the tracks are 1/8 mile, and so it's not quarter mile anymore. They do have test and tunes where you can go like on Wednesday or Friday, and those are quarter mile. Those are quarter mile. So once in a while, I go to test and tune and see what it does. But you get going 135 miles an hour. It's like, hey, okay, trip's over. Let's say put it in neutral, shut it off, and you're good. There's your times 10-0, 990, whatever. But it's a lot of fun, and it's really, really competitive.
I believe it.
And I got to know, I got to know some people that really know what the hell they're doing, and that helped me with the car, because I'm a moron. I don't know. Hey, the bowling's are different, but car racing, I can, step on the gas, point it that way, and close your eyes, and hope for the best. So.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's so much fun.
I believe it. Yeah. So I don't know if you caught last week's show, but I was talking with Parker Bone III about you, and he had something to say at the end that I want to play back right now.
Charlie Tapp was at my wedding. The funnies, the laughs, the stories. He's got some good ones. He does. He'll keep you on your toes. Chuckles, as would be better known as. I spent some time with Charlie when I was out on tour, probably late 80s, 88, 89, when he was still out there. But he was never one to be down and out. He had a laugh about something, and just his charisma. It didn't matter what kind of day you were having. You were going to start laughing about something.
Okay, so that leads me to this question. Would you rather be called Tapper, Chuckles, or Tapwater?
Well, I've been called all of them and worse, but they all kind of fit. The first guy that ever called me Tapwater was Roy Buckley.
Oh,
and the second tournament I ever bowled, I told this story on the Beef and Barnsley that I was bowling with him in Syracuse, and the place is a dungeon, and he just I'd never seen him before. It's my second tournament, and he's always carried a towel on his shoulder, and he takes it and hits me. He goes, "I don't tap water. Nothing wrong with me. That 300 wouldn't hurt. Swing and 10, strike it out 290, 300." That's simple. That's easy, But yeah, so he's the first one to call me Tapwater. Hutch called me Chuckles. A lot of guys called me Tapster. Schlegel called me Tapioca because there was some song Tapioca. He'd always come by singing it to me. And he always goes by Tapioca. What's wrong with you? But yeah. So there was a few of those. There was a few of those names that I was called. So
yeah,
but. That froze up a little bit. I didn't hear the whole thing, Pfaff, but I get the gist of it. So
yep, he mentioned you've got a lot of stories, and you were never kind of down and out. You always had a way of keeping it light, and there were always laughs to be had.
Yeah, kind of. And I learned that from Hutch, Joe Hutchinson, and it would Joe Hutchinson and I and Tommy Baker. I mean, we just I get in with such a good group of guys, and it was funny. So we bowl whether good, bad, or indifferent, and if it went bad, it was okay, take your 5 minutes, 10 minutes, do whatever the hell it is you're going to do, and then it's over.
Yeah, that's
it. It's done. Okay, and then you go to lunch, and then you go back and you try to. You get back at it. Sometimes it came out okay, and other times it just got worse. But yeah. So I mean, that was kind of the attitude from them.
Yeah.
Because it's real easy. I mean, it's real easy to just. Oh man, this is brutal, and it's and go the wrong direction, with your attitude and stuff.
Sure.
and that's kind of what when I was coaching in college. I was the same way. I said, listen. And then when I recruited guys, and there was a lot of kids that would come in they were big fish in small ponds, and like when we would have an orientation or we would have a meeting after they would sign, and I said, listen, I was going to let you know that this is a whole different world.
Yeah. That
when you come in here, and you're going to go to a tournament, and there's going to be 400 guys in that tournament that can beat you, you better be ready for it. Because it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, that's too often where you get somebody to come in, whether it's college or going to the tour, and and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's like a shock. It's like, wow, and there was a couple of guys that were that way, you know, it took to the end of their sophomore year and said, you know what, I would never believe, you know, that was going to be like that. But they said, you know, it's taken me a year or two to get past that, you know, and so I try to pass that along to the some of the kids too, you know, like yesterday when they're high school kids. Say, listen, you know, you guys did, you have to be observant, and it's an entire learning process, you know, what you go through. And it's just on tour, you go there, find out, you don't find out what you know, you find out how much you don't know.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, it's you know, when I left, I'm like, you know, I'm in my motorhome halfway across, you know, Kansas, you know, on my way to California to bowl, and I'm like, the hell am I doing? I can't beat anybody. I'm going to go out here and do this. You know, you know, and you know, it's like, wow, yeah. And then I go out there, and I couldn't beat them either. You know, and so but once I got with the right group of guys, it said, okay, let's do this and let's do that, and you know, then little by little, you know, things fell into place, and I told a story when I got into the Michigan Hall of Fame that the way when I started, the very first tournament I bowled, I cashed. And what's ironic is the very first tournament I ever bowled was in Battle Creek, Michigan, and I lived 15 minutes from that bowling center. Wow. You know, but anyway, and so I bowled in 1979. It was god awful, and so I went home halfway through the winter tour, and I thought, well, I'll go out in the summer, and it didn't get any better. And we were bowling in Amarillo, Texas. Or no, wait, we just got done bowling in Amarillo, and I was broke. I had, well, I don't know what I had on me, maybe $100 or $200, something like that.
Yeah, which
and,
basically
the next tournament was Houston. What's that?
Basically, that's the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we got to Houston, and we were going to go to a baseball game at the Astrodome because we bowled at Stadium Bowl. I don't think it's there anymore, but we bowled at Stadium Bowl, and J.R. Richards was pitching, and so I can't remember who it was against, but it was. But when we got there, it was sold out. It was myself, Frank Ellenberg, Joe Hutch, and Tommy Baker, and so we get there, we can't get tickets anywhere, scalper, no nothing, you know. So we just turned around, we walked back to the bowling center. We're walking back, and you know, they said, well, why don't we go and practice? Because they knew I was at the end of the line, you know. And so I said to Hutch, I goes, you know, Hutch, I said, I think I'm just going to go home. I said, I'm broke. What am I going to do? And he goes, how much money you got at home? You know, I said, probably a few $100s. He says, well, call and get it. And I said, Joe, I said, he goes, Charlie, what's the difference between having $300 and no money? Basically nothing. He goes, that's right. He says, get the $300. And he said, you know, of anybody that could help you out, because I only needed maybe a couple $100. Well, there was a guy that bowled league in St. Paul, this guy named Bob McCann. And so he told me, he said, Charlie, if you ever need money, call me. He owned a bar in St. Paul. And so I called him. And I said, Bob, look, and I told him, he goes, how much money you need? I said, $1,000. So I thought that'll get me through, and it'll get me home, you know. Right. So anyway, I called my wife at the time, and I said, look, go to Bob's place and get this check. So she went and gets there. So I go and practice, and you know, I tweaked a couple of things and changed my hand positions and stuff like that. And it was better. You know, so the next day was the rabbit squad. I got through the rabbit squad, and you know, all of a sudden, things just kind of started to click a little bit. And then they start the tournament, and I'm crossing with Marshall Holman, and right from the first game, I had a really nice look, and everything fell into place, and I'm keeping up with him. You know, hey, you keep up with him, chances are pretty good you're going to do something halfway decent. Yeah. And what was really, really good about it, and I've told him this a couple of times. He doesn't remember it, of course, because it's 40 years ago now. You know that I mean, he knew that and I knew him a little, but as we're going through, he's talking to me as we're going through, like helping me through this thing. All of a sudden I make the top 24 the first time ever. I'm like, wow. It was good, you know. And so anyway, I get into the top 24, and it was the same thing. It never changed for me the entire time. So the position round, I'm bowling for the show, and I bowled Eddie Wrestler, and I left 2 solid 8s to miss the show.
Oh.
And I ended up 6th. I was the alternate, and I'm like, wow, you know, all of a sudden I get a check for $2,800, or wow, this is, you know, now you can breathe. You know, well, the next tournament's in Waukegan, and I go there and I make it again. So now, all of a sudden in 2 weeks I make $5,000, and the tour ends. You know, the summer tour ends. I go, come on, let's go work tournaments, and I'm ready to go. You know, so then I found a sponsor for that fall, and so with those finishes and things like that, I was close to being exempt, because at that time you had to be in the top, I think it was top 72 to be exempt, so you didn't have to rabbit the entire year. So the last tournament, of the year was always the World Open in Chicago. So I had to finish. It was either 17th or 18th, and I'd be exempt for the following year. So I bowled good again, made the cut, and so what was really funny is that Albie was already exempt because he had won earlier that year, but Bob Handley, myself, guy named Dave Capel from Chicago, and there was 1 or 2 other guys that they either had to cash or they had to finish in a certain spot to be exempt for the next year. And so Dave Capel had it all figured out going into the position round. He goes, well, Charlie, you have to finish 18th. Bob, by making the finals, he's good. And then Mike was good because he had won, you know. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so now goes the position round. So now I got to bowl Dave Capel, you know, okay. And I've got to beat him. If I beat Dave Capel, I'm exempt for the entire year, you know, starting in 1980. As shitty as the year was, and as bad as I started out, you know, I've got a chance to be exempt for the next year, right? Yeah. So we're bowling the game. Neither one of us can get a strike, right? So I thought, you know, and what are you going to do? You know, so I finally caught a double, and I was just slightly ahead, and then I can't remember if I chopped a spare. If I chopped a spare or I split. Well, anyway, I opened the 9th. I filled the 10th. So now, if he opens in the 10th, I'm exempt.
Oh, jeez.
So, I'm like, all right. So no pressure here, you know. Right. And it didn't matter. You know, it didn't matter. I mean, as far as, you know, the prize money was only, you know, $50 difference. I mean, you know. So anyway, so I'm not paying it. I'm just kind of like, oh God, you know, I don't want that. I mean, the guy's a friend. I don't want him to hit his ankle and it go in the gutter, but if it hits an ankle and it goes in the gutter, that's fine. So anyway, he throws it. He leaves the baby split, and I'm like, okay, well, all right. So I still got a chance here. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm watching his feet. He never moved his feet. So I'm like, he's gonna miss this. I know he's gonna miss it, right? Yeah. Throws the ball, and the ball's, you know, 50 feet down the lane, and I'm like, okay. He takes the 3-pin straight back. It bounces, hits the ball, goes into the pit, knocks the 10-pin down. Oh. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, right? And he said, it was like somebody hit him in the head with a brick. He's like, ah! So anyway, so now the game's over. All right, so now I got to rabbit the entire next year. Oh, you know, man. And so you know, it was funny. So then the following year when I got out to he goes, Charles, he goes, just bowl these things. All you have to do is make them. You know, you don't have to make them. You don't have to lead them. He goes, you're better than 90% of those guys or 80% of those guys. Just go bowl. He said, you're going to make every one of them. Yeah, and he was right. I almost missed one time, and that was it. But I made enough finals to where if you made the finals, you didn't have to rabbit the next week. So and then they changed it to if you cashed, you didn't have to rabbit the next week. So I only rabbited maybe back, you know, a handful of times. You know, then I never had to rabbit again after that. But
That's great.
it's
Yeah.
great. Oh man, it was just nuts, you know. And I could see it's just, you know. But yeah, what are you going to do? I mean, he didn't cheat. He wasn't cheating. I mean, but he was trying to do a friend a favor. It was like, well, maybe not this time. Oh God, that was so bad. Oh God.
Yeah. No. So let's, you mentioned St. Paul. Let's head back to St. Paul, where you were born and raised, and at some point you got into bowling. When and where and how did that all happen?
Well, actually, my mother watched it religiously when it was on. I mean, on Saturday afternoon, her day stopped. It didn't make any difference what she was doing. Her day stopped, and so a friend of mine, Skip Miller, he took me. Him and I and his dad went a couple of times, and I really liked it. And then I joined the league with him the following year. So this was when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And so I went bowling with them, and then we joined the league. Or then I joined the league, and I bowled all the way from through high school, and I just really liked it. And what was funny is that when my mom and I would sit there, and my mother and I would sit there and watch it, And I remember one day she said to me, she was, you know what? She said, I'd like to either buy you a set of golf clubs. Now my mother my mother didn't play any sports, so nothing. She just happened to love bowling. She happened to watch it. What she really liked was that there was a Miller beer commercial where Billy Hardwick made the 6, 7, 10. She thought that was the coolest thing in the world. She goes, I love this commercial. This is great, So anyway, she said, I'll tell you what. She says, I'll either buy you a bowling ball or a set of golf clubs, and you do whichever one you want. Now, where the hell golf came from, I have no idea, because bowling was more important, more unpopular than golf back then. This was in the early, this was in the early 60s, or late 50s, early 60s. And so bowling paid as much, if not more. Yeah. So I said, well, I'm bowling with Skip, and they let's get a bowling ball.
Yeah.
So okay. That's how all that got started.
Wow.
And little by little, and it got to the point where I would take a bus. Oh God, I'm just a little fat kid, And so I'd take my single ball bag, and I'd get on the bus, and honest to God, on Sunday morning, I'd probably leave my house 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Rain, snow, sleet, didn't make any difference. She'd give me $2. I'd go to the bus stop, hop on the bus, go to the bowling alley, stay there all day.
Which one?
Day.
What was your home house?
Well, actually, here's actually what we would do, is that I would get on the bus and I would take it to the train depot in St. Paul, because the Union Depot in St. Paul had bowling lanes. And there was no automatic scores. Mm-hmm. It was still pin setters. It was 11 cents a game.
Oh, wow.
So we would go there, and most of the guys that were pin setters there, they liked their wine, and so I would go there. Well, actually, it would be my brother and my brother and I and his friends and a few of my friends, and we'd go there, and we'd bowl for, I don't know, we'd be there for like 3 or 4 hours, and the guy would be in the back, and who knows where the hell he was or wherever he was. We bowled, so we'd pull a runner, and then we would leave there, and then we would go to Harkins Lanes in downtown St. Paul, and we would go there, and games were 5 for $1. So we still had $2. So we bowled for, it's a terrible thing that we would pull a runner, but it was for 85 cents or whatever it was at the time. But then we would go to Harkins, and then we would pay. So we would bowl, 10 or 15 games at the Union Depot, leave there, go to Harkins, bowl another 10 games, and then go home.
Oh my gosh. What did your hand look like after all that?
Oh, who cared? Who cared? You would put that, they had that court plaster stuff. That was in a tube. It looked like a little toothpaste tube. Burn like, oh my God. So then one of the guys that worked at the bowling alley, he said, what you do, he says, you put that on, then you light it on fire. I said, what are you out of your mind? He goes, no. He says, you light it on fire. I said, okay. Shit, why not? So I put that on there, but everybody was scarred,
Oh,
and just so you put that on there, you light it on fire, and then you blow it out, and the thing would get hard, and away you'd go.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh
wow.
yeah. It's just lighting it on fire was the cool thing. As long as you could put it out, and then you just bowl more, and the thumb would be all torn up because the balls were all rubber, and the inside of them were cork, and you couldn't get them smooth. And half the time they wouldn't even come off your hand, but I lived and breathed it.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, I was a bowling alley rat. There wasn't any nearby, but I went on every Saturday that I traveled. I just had one league, but as I got a little bit older, then I joined the travel league. And so I bowled twice Saturday morning, and then I'd be home in time to watch the show, and then watch the TV show, and then might go bowling after that, and then go bowl all day Sunday. That's all I did. And I'd get on the bus. I didn't care if it was 20 below zero. Take the ball, hop on the bus, and go bowl. And I would go to and back at that, in those days, that's when they had the really, really good beer teams, and a lot of them were from St. Paul and Minneapolis. Like the Hams won the ABC several times or a couple times, and just so many really, really great teams. And I'd go to these tournaments and I'd watch these guys. And then once I got a little bit older and towards the end of high school when I started bowling adult leagues, then I would go bowl these tournaments. And here are guys that I've watched since I was a kid. And they had All-Star Bowling on television every Sunday night after the news, and it was live. And a lot of times it was from St. Paul. If it was from St. Paul, I'd go there.
Huh.
I'd be there. I was just a little kid, about 12, 13 years old. Mm-hmm. I'd go there at 10 o'clock at night and watch it live. And I saw all these guys: Dick Hoover, Ray Bluth, Dick Weber, Don Carter. Every damn one of them were on that show at one point or another. Huh. I went. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care. I'm going. So my mom said, just be careful. Yeah. And I go and watch them. And so it was such a thrill. These are guys that are on television. They're bowling for money. I remember when Jack Biondolillo shot 300 at the Firestone. I was bowling league. Yeah, I was bowling junior league. And the whole place stopped to watch it because nobody done it before.
Right.
It's thrilling.
Who would you say? Who would you say was your favorite? I mean, I watched your Michigan USBC Hall of Fame speech. You kind of talked a lot about Bob Strampy. Was he your guy?
Yeah, Bob Strampy. Yep. Yeah, because he bowled for the Skippers, Minnesota Skippers, when they had the NBL.
Okay.
They had the National Bowling League. He bowled for the Skippers, and my friend Skip's dad was a real big Bob Strampy guy. And every time Strampy was on either All-Star Bowling or the PBA or some of the older shows, Jackpot Bowling, and all that stuff. Oh yeah, he was the man. He was the man. And then now I live in Michigan, and then when I worked for the bowling distributor, I would see him. Oh. It's thrilling, still thrilling. I'm 70 years old, and he's, I don't know, 110. I don't know. But nonetheless, I mean, the guy was my bowling hero. Yeah. Shit, how about but it's it's really funny. I mean, I'm sitting here. I'm 70 years old. And I remember this stuff like nobody's business. I don't know where the hell my car is parked. But I can tell you what I bowled in 1952 or whatever. It's just, and the guys from St. Paul and Minneapolis, they're so good. Holy shit! I even like when I first started bowling league. I mean, there's guys like Jim Lindquist, and God rest his soul. He was a terrific bowler. Bob Hanson, Rod Toft. I mean, my God, you could go. I mean, the list is a mile long of all these guys that have won. They've won ABC Eagles and USBC championships. I mean, the Schmidt beer teams, the Hams beer teams, the Minnesota Loons, and just, wow, all these guys are so good, and there's always a comparison about, and we would see that there, like when I started bowling good in the early '80s, and things were going good, and there were guys who would come out on tour that led the country in average, and there's a difference in the competitive bowling. I mean, it's different. You would have guys like Joe Vito and Mike Newman and Rudy, Rudy Rebs and guys like that. They're all terrific bowlers, but it's a whole different game that they're playing. It's different. It's more of a, I mean, could they go out on tour and do it? Yeah, if they wanted to, they probably could. I mean, those are exceptionally talented guys, but they chose to stay home and make money in sprints, versus marathon like the tour was. They can make more money doing a sprint.
Yep.
But they're every bit as good as anybody else. It's just a different format. And it's the same thing like some of these team guys. Mm-hmm. They didn't come out on tour. Why should they?
Right.
Why should they? They had all these mega buck tournaments to bowl. And there was a guy from Denver, a guy named Mick Morton, and he won one of the high rollers for $250,000. And then he came out on tour, and guys were saying, "What's the matter with you? Why would you risk it? Why it costs you $1,000 to make $250,000. You know how long it's going to take you to make $250,000 out here, even if you're really, really good,
even today."
Yeah. Even
today.
Yeah, even today. And relatively speaking, the money was better then than it is now.
Yeah.
I don't think those guys got I don't think they got the respect that they deserved with how good they would from the top touring guys.
Okay.
Because they were looked at. Yeah, they were more looked at like league bowlers. No, that's a whole different thing. Yeah, I wouldn't want to bowl any of those guys for a living. I mean, it's just that's just how good they were at what they did.
Sure.
So, but St. Paul and Minneapolis, I mean, all of Minnesota was just loaded with great bowlers. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. Oh, geez.
Yeah. And you would end up, you said, you were talking about when you went adult, you would end up bowling against a lot of them in CBAs.
Oh, yeah. It was, CBA was a great place to get, your feet wet. Yeah. These are guys that have won basically world titles. Mm-hmm. He's bowling next to you, and it's like, all right, well, you can compete with that guy. Maybe. I mean, it's a little bit different, but nonetheless, it's these guys are terrific.
Yeah.
These guys are terrific bowlers, and CBAs were hard to win. Mm-hmm. They were hard to win because it's not really it wasn't like some cake little thing. You had all these guys that were really great champions that were bowling those things. Yeah. Like one guy, this Bob Hanson. He's passed away now a couple of years ago, but he won it like a bodily function. It was like, oh, okay. He was like Mark Roth. I said to Mark Roth one time, I said, because he'd take, one time he would take 4 steps, another time he would take 7. Didn't matter. He'd kick your ass either way, And I said, what determines how many steps you take? Like I said, who you're bowling, like if you want to make quick work of somebody, I'm a little tired, I'm going to take 4. Well, this guy might be a little bit, all right, I'll take 6. Now, this one here, I'm going to start back in the settee area. I might take 11, but who cares? I'm busy. I'm having a smoke. But it's just so stupid. How good this guy was, and never miss a spare. Yeah. Never. Yeah, him, Walter, Marshall, Earl. You picked a Hall of Fame guy that's got 20, 30, 40 titles. They don't miss any. They don't miss any. I asked Walter one time. He had his little iPad or thing, and he'd keep track of every shot. And so when we were crossing together somewhere, it was on a PBA50 tournament. I said, Walter, look at that thing. When's the last time you missed a 10-pin? So when's the last time you missed a 10-pin? 986 shots ago. 1,000. He said he's made 1,000 in a row, or almost 1,000 in a row. No,
no wonder.
Because I leave that many. Oh bullshit! Speaking of that, I got a story about that. So I'm cross-eyed. We're bowling at the national championship in Toledo, and I bowled a really good last game to make it. I shot 250 to make it.
Okay.
And so I think I got the second to the last spot. So the way the pairings went is that 1 and 2 would bowl with, the 52nd guy or whatever. So I'm crossing with Butch Soper. It's Butch Soper, Walter, and myself. So it was funny because I crossed with Butch the whole time. So the first 2 games I shot 230, 240. So I'm like 78 or 79 over, something like that. And I look up and I'm 120 pins behind already because he shoots 280, 300. So we're in 2 games in. I'm averaging 230 and I'm 180 behind. So anyway, so I bowled with him the whole time and he just crushed him. He's 1,000 over and Walter's whatever. So I have to bowl with these 2. So when I'm throwing the ball pretty good. What I did is I switched from 5 steps to 4 steps the last block because I just couldn't get anything going. I thought I got to change something. So I switched from 5 to 4 and everything fell in, and I go, okay. So anyway, we're bowling and we're in about the 6th game. And I'm crossing with Walter and I'm like, boy, man, I'm throwing it good. And and I look up and I've got 6 black games. So every game's over 200. And Walter's got 5, and he's beaten me by another 200. How can this possibly be? There's no way that this guy bowled better than I did. I'm sorry, there's no way, right? So anyway, I thought I got to watch him bowl. I got to see what the hell's going on here, right? Yeah. So anyway, he gets up. I think it's the 7th game. So he gets up, throws a shot, half pocket, leaves a 10-pin. Pin rolls around and knocks it out. Okay. All right. Next shot, chips the 4. Next shot leaves a 5-7. Okay. Goes to throw the spare, and he's not going to make it. Right. Ball hits a 5-pin in the face, up into the corner, bounces out. He makes it. Right. And I said, that's it. I'm literally mad. I said, that's it. I can't take this anymore. I said, well, what's the matter? I said, you're the luckiest SOB I've ever seen in my life. I said, look at it. You got whatever the games were. But I said, every black game you have is 260, 250. Mine are 220, 230, something like that. You're kicking my ass. And I said, you haven't even hit the pocket yet. I said, your ass is this big. I goes, no wonder you beat everybody by 1,000. And here I am. I'm hollering at him in the middle of the tournament. And I'm just like, what am I doing? I had to catch myself. Like, what the hell am I doing hollering at this guy,
We're not even at reactive equipment at this point, I'm guessing.
No, we're not. And I said, oh my God, it just I'm like, I'm catching myself. I said, oh geez, this is crazy. I mean, how can I be losing to this guy? But but that's why he's got 40 titles and I got 3. But it was really, really funny. Luckily he's laughing. I mean, I was serious. If he knew I was serious, he probably, probably would have. Yeah. Who knows? But
who knows?
But it's just. So, but it's phenomenal to watch.
Yeah.
The guy, when a guy like that gets it going, like he was like that. Mark was like that. Earl was like that. Marshall was like that. Tommy Baker would get like that. Mm-hmm. Tommy Baker, he'd fiddle around and fart around trying to get his hand in the ball. And then he'd throw that spin biscuit like this.
Yep.
He had half pocket. The 6 would go in the gutter and lay on the 10. And he would do it. I mean, he wouldn't do it like once every 10 shots. He'd do it like 6, 7 times in a row. Well, why would he move when he carries it? And like Hutch and I would be, we'd be bowling next to him or whatever the case might be, and we're like, and Hutch would hit him. He goes, "Here he goes. Look at 8-bagger every shot, half pocket, 6 in the gutter, leans on the 10." So, and what was really funny too in 1984, I bowled him on the show in Seattle, and Hutch was sitting in the back. Of course, we've been friends for years and we all hung around together, so we're all busting each other's chops during the show, So anyway, so I'm ahead, and Tommy's not doing anything, and all of a sudden he gets up on the right lane, half pocket, 6 in the gutter, leans on the 10. Gets up on the the left lane, half pocket, 6 in the gutter, lean on the 10. Well, now they go into the commercial. Okay. He sits down, and I looked at him. I goes, "Don't be starting to shit." I tell her, I said, "Don't." I'm shaking my finger. Don't be starting. And Hutch is in the back going like this. But those guys are so much fun. Oh God. Yeah. Tommy and I still travel and hang around all together on the senior tour when I bowl. So
okay.
So, all we do is laugh. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
Take me back. You were telling me in messages that your first 300 game was right here in town at the house that I bowl at.
Yeah. Yeah, it was during the CBA. That's when it was 64 and a half. It was 64 and a half, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Wagner's it was 64 back then. Yep.
Yeah. And they had just put synthetics in. It was the very first synthetic. All it had was arrows. It had no lines. It didn't have markers down the lane. And I don't know if you ever saw it. I'm trying to remember what the heck it was called.
Yeah.
Permaline, maybe? Anyway, but yeah, it was like it looked like a Formica tabletop with arrows on it. Yeah, and I think we might have been the first tournament that bowled on. I don't remember, but anyway, so that before we got started that morning, they had a blackout, and the blackout lasted, I don't know, about a half hour or so. So we got started a little bit late, and I don't know what game it was. I don't know if it was in the middle of the block or whatever. But yeah, it ended up the first 300 I had ever had. The first 11 were pretty good. The last one was, I forgot to kind of let go of it. Not Brooklyn, but I put that pre-pro spin on it. So the Brooklyn carried. I ended up with 300. So. Yeah. Get done with the tournament, hop in the car, get home, and turn on the news. And there's this bulletin. They're talking about this big fire. And so my wife at the time, and so anyway, they said, yeah, well, Wagner's Lane's in Eau Claire. He goes, wait a minute, we just left. We just left. And I mean, it was a huge fire. It wasn't like some little thing where they put out with a fire extinguisher. I mean, that whole place was. And evidently obviously it was an electrical fire, but yeah. So I had the 300 there, and the place burns to the ground.
Yeah. But they rebuilt, and it was 66 and a half for years and years, and now it's 26. They sold off the 40 side and tore it down, and now it's a little shopping strip and a quick trip. But the 26 side is still there.
Wow.
And they're synthetic now.
Yeah, because they had just changed to that. I think we were the first tournament to bowl on, if I remember right, because that's 1977.
Yeah, November 1977.
Yeah, November 77.
Yeah. So you've covered some of your tour experience, but I mean, take me to the early days. When did you make that decision? Hey, I'm going to go out on tour, and how did that all come to be?
Well, the my cousin from Oregon was in town,
Okay.
and we were at my aunt's house, and he lived in Oregon, and and he had a irrigation business. He sold those big irrigation systems to to farmers and stuff. That could see, and he was doing pretty well, and I said, well, I've said been thinking about going to bowl, and because I had worked in the auto parts business because of the racing and all that other stuff, and every nickel I got, every time I got paid every other Friday, I just signed a check back over to the guy I worked for, and so I thought, this is getting a little bit too expensive, so I sold off all my stuff, and I thought, well, I'm gonna start bowling, and I would take it much more serious and stuff like that, and I said, but it's expensive to go, and I said, I didn't have any money to do that. And he said, I'm doing okay. He said, I'd be willing to help you out. He said, well, what would it take? And at that time it was, it was $600 a week,
Sure.
Not like now where it's the entry fees are $600.
Yeah.
I said, it's probably about $600 a week. And he said, when you get ready to go, let me know. So anyway, I talked to my wife and I said, listen, I want to give this thing a shot. She said, oh, okay. Well, the first tournament was here, like I said, it was here in Battle Creek, and I cashed. And and he had sent me enough money to go to a couple of the tournaments. I only bowled 2 in the fall, and I thought, well, I'll start out on the winter tour. So I was supposed to leave. I was going to leave on a Saturday, but the money, he hadn't sent me the money yet. And at that time, it wasn't like you could just, Venmo or PayPal it. You actually had to wait. You had to wait for mail or for Western Union or something. Yeah. And well, it got to be Tuesday, and I needed to be in Los Angeles I wanted to be there by Friday, because Joel Hafner, who was one of the owners of Hafner Lane, he was out there bowling on tour. So I was going to meet him in LA, and we were going to go watch the Vikings play the Rams in the playoff game that January. So I thought, well, I've got to get out of here. So I left before he sent me the money. Well, I got there, the money still hadn't shown up. Oh. And the trip there, oh my God, it was horrible. When I left about 10 o'clock at night, snowing like crazy. I'm hopping. I sold my car, quit my job, and bought a motorhome, which was, oh God, if I ever do that again, I would never ever. Oh man! So it didn't stop snowing until I got to Kansas. So wow. I drove all night in the snow, and it was just horrible, right? Yeah. So I get to Kansas, and it's halfway decent. It's a little cold, but I thought, well, I'm making pretty good time regardless, and I just kept going. So finally I stopped, and I got to a gas station. Of course, at that time they still pumped your gas, and so I tell the kid, go ahead and fill it up, and I said, you have a hose for some water? He goes, yeah. I said, I'll fill up the water tank for you, and it's okay. So anyway, he puts the hose in the water tank, and I went in. I don't know what I did. And I came back out, and he goes, sir, he says, I think you have a problem. I goes, what's that? And all the water's on the ground.
Oh, no.
Like, oh, she said, okay. And so anyway, I said I need to take a shower. He said, well, there's a campground. So anyway, I put it in the camp. I went to this campground. And I go, well, I've got to get this thing fixed, because this is I'm not going to stay in a hotel. And so I stop in this place in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to see what's wrong, So this guy, he says, I think there's probably your water tank's probably froze. He said, so we'll take that. Let's take that off. And it's okay, And so I said, well, I got to get it fixed. So anyway, he's trying to unbolt. There's all these little itty bitty screws, and he's trying to take them out. And there's 2 of them he can't get out. And he's getting madder and madder, because it's at the end of the day. This guy wants to get the hell out of there. I want to get out of there. So anyway, he's grabbing the thing and he's pulling it. And all of a sudden, he pulls it, and it comes off, and it slips out of his hand. And This finger, gone. He cut it right off. Honest to God, he cut it right off.
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not thinking about his finger. I'm like, I'm never going to get out of here now. Yeah, and so it's like, oh, this is terrible. So his finger and they sewed it back on, luckily, But anyway, I mean, I found that out afterwards. But anyway, so they fixed it, and and I finally got to Los Angeles, like 3 days late, and it was a disaster. And I bowled a rabbit squat on Monday. It was like I might as well have bowled left-handed in my socks. It was terrible. I mean, what the hell? What am I doing? So, I'd call my wife. I said, "You get money yet?" No. So I'm in LA, 2,300 miles from home, with $60 in my pocket. How am I going to get? And I got a credit card, and the Hutch still makes fun of it to this day. I had a Diners Club card. There was Visa, MasterCard, Diners Club, and nobody took Diners Club.
Oh, geez.
I mean, it was stupid. So I'm like, well, I got to get there somehow. So I'm calling like every 2 minutes. I said, you got to at least send me some money because the next tournament's in Vegas.
Okay.
So anyway, so he sends me a little bit of money. I get to Vegas, and it was just as bad. It was just as bad. But what was really funny is I'm crossing with John next to Johnny Petraglia, and I actually bowled pretty good for a while. And there's a story that he tells, and it like there's Johnny on one pair, I'm on the next, and Mark Roth is on the next. So I got one game, shoot 279, crickets. Nobody's saying anything. Right? Mark Roth doubles in the 10th to shoot 220. The roof of the building's coming off. So I stand up and I goes, "Hey, this is it. I don't dance." And I'm standing there like a moron. It's my second tournament ever, Like, nobody knows who the hell I am, and they couldn't even care less, I could be laying dead in the gutter for right out loud, So anyway, so Petraglia got a kick out of that. Well, later on that night, I'm waiting in a line to go in a coffee shop at the Showboat. So Johnny's in line with so Johnny and Dave Davis are in front of me, and so Johnny says, "Hey, Charlie, you want to sit down and eat with us?" I said, "Yeah, why the heck, yeah. I have 2 Hall of Famers, right? So I'm being taken under my wing by lefties. Maybe that's why I had so many Brooklyns on television. I don't know." So we're sitting there, and Dave Davis says, he goes, "Charlie, ever play Keno?" I goes, "No." He goes, "You want to play?" I goes, "Yeah, okay." He goes, "Well, pick 3 numbers." And I don't know what the hell I picked, 2, 28, and 73, or whatever it was. And he looks at me, he goes, "What the hell kind of numbers are those?" What do you mean? You told me to pick 3 numbers. I'm not splitting the atom here. I'm playing Keno, And I goes, "Well, how much is it?" He goes, $8. And I goes, $8? What are you, nuts? I'm 2,400 miles from home. I got like $40 in my pocket. And I'm $8 for Keno. I thought, yeah, what the hell? So give me $8. So they got all these circles and dots and all this stuff on the sheet, and all of a sudden the numbers are coming out, bing, 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 bing. And so, their eyes are lighting up, and I'm like, well, something good must be happening, And so Davis, he goes, "Charlie, we're like 2 numbers away from $11,000 or whatever." It's like, wow, this is great. So whatever it is, we split like $260 or something like that. Right? Oh, now all of a sudden I'm golden. I'm J. Paul Getty or whatever. I'm sitting back, drinking coffee, smoking a cigarette. Life is good all of a sudden.
Right.
But yeah, it's just and those guys. I mean, I'll never forget that as long as I live. How nice they were. And I mean, of course, now we've been friends for 40 some years. But yeah, it was just just that whole thing was just so much fun. And then I just had it with that motorhome. And so I flew home, and I met these 2 old ladies playing. Blackjack, dollar blackjack. And they say, well, why are you here? And I'm like, I'm asking myself why I'm here, But she said, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here bowling the tournament, blah, 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 and I'm giving them the sob story. And I said, well, I want to go home because I need to get some money and all this other stuff. So they let me put my motorhome at their house.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I said, here's all my information. This, and I'm going to be back. Don't worry. I didn't want to go back, but I said I'll be back to get it. And I said, probably next week. And it took me an extra week, and I went back and I got it. And they were really nice. Of course, the next tournament was in St. Louis, and I finally I put a little money back in my pocket, and I thought, well, okay, I got enough money to get to St. Louis, and so I was going to leave. I can't remember what day it was, and I thought, well, I'll leave the next day. So I leave the next day. It's snowing in Las Vegas.
Oh,
they got a half a foot of snow on the ground
in Las Vegas.
This is what a glamorous life on tour is. This is all the glamour part, So anyway, there's a half a foot of snow on the ground in Vegas when I left.
Oh my
gosh. It didn't matter to me. I'm from Minnesota. I could care less if it's 2 feet of snow, right?
Right.
Well, I hop in the motorhome and I get on the freeway and I'm barreling down there 70 miles an hour. I don't care. And people are honking at me, giving me the finger, and I'm like, just get out of the way. I don't care. So we get up and I get through and I get into Colorado and I get up in the mountains and I get by Vail. And it is snowing like nobody's business. And so you have to stop.
Right.
And they have to put on chains.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have any chains. Number one, I've never had them. I don't know how to put them on, And so the guy said, well, he goes, you got to this truck driver on the CB said, well, you got to have chains to get through. I said, well, where can I get any? He goes, well, you aren't going to find any in Vail, so you have to go 30 miles south. And he told me where to go. So I go 30 miles south. Cost me $140 for chains. Get back on, go back up to Vail, and the guy stops me. So anyway, he gets out and he says, "Do you have chains?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I just bought some in Podunk, wherever it was." And he comes back and he goes around. He sees the Minnesota license plate, and he said, he says, "I go fishing at Mille Lacs and all this stuff like that, like in the summer and everything." He goes, "You know how to drive in this stuff. Go ahead." I don't even have to put the chains on. I spent $140 for chains to go 2 hours out of my way in a snowstorm. I'm like, at least make me put them on. That's the least you could do. Oh, jeez. So anyway, away I go. Turns nighttime. No, this is going to be the end of the story because I can't. It just keeps getting worse. Yeah. So anyway, I turn my lights on. The windshield wipers stop working.
Oh.
So no, this is happening. So right. I turn the lights off. Windshield wipers are going like crazy. Turn the lights on, they stop. Come on, this is enough. This is really enough. And so finally, I get to the other side of the mountain. On my way down. Coming out of the mountain, it's finally quit snowing when I got to the lower elevation, and I pull into this gas station. I tell myself, I don't know what the hell's going on. He lifts the hood, and luckily it was just a short. It took him like 2 seconds to fix it.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, the lights were on like the 4th of July. So finally, I got to St. Louis, and I said, "That's it. That's it." I took the motorhome home, and I called the bank, and I said, "Come and get it." I said, I can't deal with it anymore. So, oh, geez, but it was just, what a train wreck.
Let's talk about your first win in 1983. I asked Mark Baker, about that because he was said in the chat on Beef and Barnsey. He said that he called it, during the practice session. He said, it was 38 years ago. I'm sure it was because he was playing straight somewhere in the track as why. What do you remember about that tournament?
Well, it was so funny. I thought this might come up. And what was really funny is I went over there. Hutch and I went over there to bring our equipment there right after the rabbits go out on Monday or whatever day the rabbit was. And one of the first guys I saw was a guy from Minnesota named Ron Hanson. And he was a really, really good bowler. I think his first name was Ron, if I remember right. Really, really good. And he was out on tour for 5 weeks. And he said he's the first guy I saw when I walked in just to drop the balls off. Huh. And he said, Charlie, he said, you do this for a living? I said, yeah. He goes, you're out of your mind. I said, what's the matter? He goes, I'm going home and I'm never coming back. I said, wow. I said, really? Because this guy threw a good. Ron Hanson was a really good bowler. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. You'll never see me again. And so anyway, I just dropped my stuff off. And then, I don't know what we did the rest of the day. Well, then the next day is the practice session. The first guy I see is Mark walking into the bowling alley. He looks at me, he goes, Chaz, he goes, this is all you. And now, and this is 38 years ago now, Andrew. This is 38 years ago.
Yeah.
And Mark is, like I said, Mark's probably the best instructor in the world right now.
Right.
And so 38 years ago, he recognized this, and I'm like, I had been having a pretty good season. I made a couple shows, but wow, okay. When I go on a bowl practice session and Hutch and I are bowling together and Hutch looks at me and goes, Charlie, if you don't win this, I've thrown 2 balls in the place. I got one guy telling me I'm winning. He hasn't, I haven't thrown a ball in a place yet. One guy telling me I'm winning. And then my roommate says, Charlie, he said, you win this thing easy. Why the hell did you tell me that a couple of years ago when I was bowling earlier? And I bowled a pro-am. I shot maybe like 640 or something. There wasn't anything. And all of a sudden, the entire time was just, the pins looked this big and the ball looked that big. The whole time. And I got in, I'm leading and I got a bowl Wayne, I got a bowl Wayne Webb. And, Wayne was, and geez, I led the entire time. You led the entire time and never was behind in that game. It was the best game I'd ever bowled on television, and, well, maybe not the highest scoring game, but it was the best, probably the best game I bowled. And I needed 20 in the 10th to shut him out. And I struck the first one. I left a 10 pin on the second one. And like I say, I hadn't missed one the entire week. And I put my hand on the ball and something kind of felt odd. And when the ball hit the pin, I thought that kind of sounded weird. And when I picked the ball up after all the stuff off the show, the core separated in the ball. Oh. The cord separated in the ball, but I didn't care. I mean, it's once it got to that point, I didn't care if it broke in half. Right. And it was such a, it's like, holy crap. I mean, how did he know? It's like, how does somebody else know? I mean, and Mark was, Mark's a wild man at that time. He was, and I mean, he's a great bowler. And he'd be the first to admit, man, when they hooked and he had room to the right, I mean, he was impossible to beat.
Sure.
Big guy. He was like a football guy, Yeah. He was a hell of an athlete, and the ball probably felt like it was a ping pong ball, So, but yeah, first guy I saw. Chaz, it's all you.
Let me tell you what else he remembers. He said that you and Hutch were the kings of Q&A before position rounds with the crowd.
Oh, geez. Yeah, we had a little fun with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, we'd get them going. Harry Golden would give us the mic, and we'd like, okay, you go sit over there for 15 minutes. We got it. And they would just fire questions, and we'd give them smart ass answers, and I mean, and everybody loved it. Yeah. But the one time we were in, was it? Yeah, it was in Milwaukee. Huh? We were in Milwaukee, and they had us doing one, and there was a guy that was just unmercifully heckling Marshall Holman. Marshall had a hell of a time in Milwaukee.
This must have been at Red Carpet Celebrity, right?
Yeah, it was. And this guy, one guy hollers out, one guy hollers out to Hutch. He had the microphone. He goes, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And Hutch goes, "I find guys for your sister." But and I hadn't heard that's a Rodney Dangerfield. That's a Rodney Dangerfield line, but I had never heard it before. I about died. Oh my God, they're gonna throw us out of the bowling alley, that's, oh geez. So anyway, well then another guy started in on Marshall, and Hutch just read him the riot act. You have no idea how good this guy is and what it takes to do what he's doing, and and all the other stuff like that, but yeah, we get the people going. Yeah. And what was really fun is, especially a place like Milwaukee, where the people were, they weren't shy, about blurting stuff out and things like that, and oh yeah, they would just open us up for jokes, and oh yeah, it was so much fun. Oh geez.
So
oh God, Hutch was the greatest.
Yeah, so he says you guys are great at the at the Q&A thing. He said he was excellent at the numbers game at meals.
Oh, the numbers game. Oh, geez.
Care to fill in the blank?
Yeah. Well, what happened is, I'm not sure exactly how it's. Well, I know how it started. We used to play the numbers game, like on The Price is Right, where higher, lower, that type of thing. Sure. They have whatever that is. So we used to play that when we would take a bus from St. Paul to the Peterson. We would play the numbers game, and whoever guessed the number got the money, and it was 1 to 1,000. So what Hutch and I were talking about it one day, and he goes, and I don't know how it exactly got started, but I mean that's how it got started. But I don't know when we started playing it. Well, all of a sudden it caught on, and everybody's doing it. And now all of a sudden, instead of 3 or 4 guys for dinner, there'd be 20 of us because they wanted to see who was going to get stuck with the bill, stuck with the bill. And there were some bills. Now you got to remember too, this is 40 years ago now, but some of those bills were $300-$400. Well, then all of a sudden we were splitting them up. It would be 2 bills. But the best number game story ever is Mike Edwards and Billy Young. Is it okay if I drop an F-bomb, because it's a real big part of the story? Because it's a big part of the story.
Hey, you're on a roll. I'm not going to get in your way.
Right. So Billy Young and we're bowling a U.S. Open in Chicago, and Billy Young's, the transmission of his car goes out. So anyway, we're all staying in the same hotel. So Billy and Mike, this is probably maybe their first or second or third year out. So anyway, of course they said, well, can we travel? Absolutely, because I mean they're great guys. They're from Oklahoma. I mean they're just a lot of fun, right? So anyway, so the next morning we're gonna go out for breakfast. So we're watching Press Your Luck, sure. The game show Press Your Luck. Well, now they call it Whammy,
right?
But anyway, so Hutch was off the week before, and he comes there and we're watching. And he goes, "Hey Charlie," he said, "This episode was on at my house last week." He goes, he said, "This guy gets way ahead. He passes all the spins to this girl, and then the girl gets way ahead and passes passes him the spin, and he whammies out. So she wins." I go, "So you said, I said, are you shitting me?" I said, "Don't be lying to me." No, he said, "That's what happens, right?" So anyway, here comes Billy and Mike, and Mike sits down. He's got that joke. He goes, "Hey, Press Your Luck." He goes, "I like that game, And I said, "Oh yeah, And he goes, "Yeah, this is a good game." I go, "Hey, for breakfast." They say, "You want to bet, see who wins?" Yeah. And so I'm going to give him his pick, and I'm like, "God, please don't pick the girl, because I get stuck." So anyway, he goes, "Yeah, I'll take that guy there." So anyway, the show goes on, and it's going the way Hutch said. Well, now all of a sudden she's $1,000 ahead or whatever it is. She passes him the spin. Whammy, boom, she wins. And Mike's like, oh shit. He goes, this is it. So now he has to buy me breakfast, right?
Yeah.
So we get done, and Hutch says, he goes, Charlie, he said, you know what we should do? He says, well, play the numbers game. And he said, either you or I will write the number. And so the way that it works without getting it. So if I write the number, the person to my right, you know, if the number is 10 and they say 11 or 9, I lose. That's it. So it's one number next to close to the number. So, but if one of us writes a number and I'm sitting on his right or he's sitting on my right, well, they're never going to win. So we do this the entire week, every meal, right? From Monday to Saturday, and we all bowled good. We either made the finals or can't. So we're gonna go out to a nice place on Saturday night, you know. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so now these guys neither one of them have written the number the entire week. So we get to this place, the bill's $140, $150 for the four of us. Might have even been $200. I don't know. It was up there a ways. Yeah. So anyway, Hutch says, let's just let them write the number. You know, and now they're arguing back and forth. Who's the last person to write that? And neither one of them have written it, right? So Mike says, "Oh, give me the paper." He goes, "I'll write it." Right. So he writes the number down, you know, and he flips the paper over. So anyway, so Hutch has to guess first. So Hutch says 2, you know, and Mike Edwards goes, "Oh, it's higher." And I said 996, and he goes, "No, it's lower." Now Billy Young thinks he's being smart, you know, and he's smoking the after dinner cigarette, and he goes 500, right? And then he goes, "That's it. That's it." He goes, "You're stupid." He goes, "Yeah." And Billy Young is so mad. Oh my God, is he mad, right? And all of us, and when he would get mad, his voice would get real high. He goes, "Edwards," he goes, "why would you write a stupid fucking number like that?" And so Edwards looks at him, he goes, leans in, he goes, "Because I knew a stupid fucker like you would pick it." Oh my God. It was incredible. Oh my God. Oh, jeez. Just oh man. Yeah, sorry for the F-bombs, but it's you know, but I'll tell you, some of them numbers games got brutal. I mean, and you know, like Pete Couture, if he got he's ready to kill somebody. And when it got down to the last couple of numbers, and there was only like 3 or 4 guys left, I mean, it got pretty bad. Tommy Baker got stuck for one. Oh God, I can't remember how much it was. $300. Oh. You know, but everybody went to Dare together to see who was going to get stuck. It's not like we were all friends. You know, I'm going to another game to see who's going to pay. You know, oh jeez, man, oh man, it was brutal. Yeah. It was absolutely brutal. And then I don't know, it just kind of fell by the wayside after a while. But it was bad.
So when did the radio show thing happen?
It was after. Probably after I started bowling really good, like in 1982. Okay. I think the first 8 weeks in the winter tour, I made 4 shows. Okay. And they were all, you know, I made it at the US Open. I made it at the National Championship. You know, I made it in Vegas, which was another national championship tournament. And there was a guy, in fact, Ted Robinson. He does a lot of the tennis. He was doing a lot of the tennis. He does announcing for the 49ers. And so I got to be real good friends with him. He was talking on a show. We were talking about sports, and he had a sports talk show. And somebody brought something up about bowling. And so when they brought it up, I called in, and I said that, you know, I'm a professional bowler. And, you know, and he invited me on the show. Well, the guys that you're seeing, the guy in the middle is Russ Small, and the other guy on the left is Mike Edwards, right? The radio Mike Edwards, not the numbers. Not the bowl. Edwards, not the numbers Mike Edwards, but and I got to be friends with these guys, and by doing the radio show with Ted Robinson and stuff like that. So they would invite me to sit in. And then there was a guy that you might have heard of, Don Vogel.
Oh, that name sounds familiar.
He was a radio guy in Milwaukee. He was blind.
Okay.
And he came from Milwaukee to Minneapolis. He was fantastic. His Howard Cosell impression was the best ever. Yeah. I mean, what's his name? The sports guy that did Howard Cosell. He had a TV show. I can't think of his name. But Don Vogel had the best Howard Cosell ever of anybody. It was terrific. But anyway, so I would go in and sit in with these guys, and then on Saturdays during the week, it would be myself, and this guy named Mike Woodley, and then it was either Scott Ledoux, the boxer, or Jack Carlson from the North Stars and the Blues, and he wasn't in slap. He was the only Carlson brother that wasn't in Slapshot. And so it was Jack Carlson or Joe Sensor from the Vikings, Bill Brown from the Vikings. So it would be that group, and then we would all do the sports talk show, and then this Mike Woodley would be the main guy, and it was so much fun. I got to meet those guys and got to socialize with them a little bit, and they were real. Scott Ledoux was great. I mean, obviously he died way too young. And he would just bust my chops about bowling. And I told him one time on the air, I said, if my bowling ball hit as hard as you, I'd be selling newspapers at the Metrodome. he thought that was pretty good. He goes, yeah, that's a good one for a bowler, but really, really nice guy. Yeah. Really, really nice guy. And then and that led to, they had a thing at Minnehaha Lanes. Remember that place in St. Paul?
Sure, I bowled league there when I was in high school. Yeah,
yeah. So they had a thing, the good old days of bowling or something like that. And that during that week, it was myself, Jerry Ernster, and then they had Ron Washington played for the Twins at the time. Yep. He only bowled a lot, bowled good as a matter of fact.
Really,
one of the guys from the North Stars, and every night it was somebody different. But on Friday night it was Larry the Axe, the wrestler.
Larry Henning, yeah.
So we had to kind of plan this out because he had never bowled before. So he sold real estate in Elk River. So I had to drive out to Elk River to meet with him, and this is just when his son Kurt Hennig was coming up. He was I think he might have only been like 20, 21 or 22 years old or something. But anyway, we planned this, and he was such a nice man. And he says, Charlie, he says, I've never bowled in my life. And his thumbs looked like fingers looked like sausages. They're all bent up from beating the hell out of people, and so he had to get there early, and they had to fit him for a ball. And then what they did is they put a guy in the back with a stick. So if he hit some, the guy would take a pin and they would kind of tumble into each other, because obviously it wasn't a fair fight. Yeah. There were so many people in there, Fef. It was unbelievable. The place was just packed. I mean, it was literally 10 people deep and across the entire place for him. I mean, they had some big hitter Vikings guys out. When he was there, place was packed. And this was on Friday night, And it was just a whole bunch of lunatics in that place, So anyway, he'd throw a ball down the middle. He tried to help him out beforehand. He'd throw a ball down the middle. He'd hit the 6 pin, and then there was somebody would knock him over in the back with a stick, and then I'd accuse him of cheating. Then he picked me up like nothing. This big guy, he picked me up. He's going to whack me over his knee, and it was so much fun. Oh my God! And the people were going crazy. It was, oh God, those are such great memories. Of the thing that bowling has brought me. Just outside of the championships and the trophies and the money, that's all. Money's all gone. It's been gone for years. But boy, just the experience of that. And what all of that led to. I met And they say that who's the most famous person I met? Well, like in my mind is Chuck Yeager. I mean, Chuck Yeager knew my name. The guy broke the speed of sound. It's holy shit. This guy's that's history there.
Yeah.
And it just oh my god.
The guy who told me about the radio show, his name is Brent Prentice. He's one of the owners of Cedarvale Lanes in Eagan, and and he told me that the Bradley Bowl win was one of his favorite PBA shows. And let me tell you, he's seen a few of them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that. I'll tell you, that was incredible. We were broke basically. I didn't know what I was still bowl. I'd taken a couple weeks off and kind of got my bearings a little bit again, and I came out and I bowled pretty good the week before, and I finished 10th, and then and that was in Baltimore, and then we went to Hartford, and Hartford was always the last tournament. So my wife Marlis is with me, and she had been bowling. She'd been bowling on the ladies tour, so she had just come off of that. She was pretty sharp, at the time. And so her and I and Ernie Schlegel are practicing on Monday. And she was really the only one that could strike, and this was after the Rabbit Squad. And, Ernie and I, we were beating our ass like crazy, And I mean, she was pretty good, pretty damn good athlete, and all that stuff. And so Ernie and I are talking and I kept, the lanes are, the planes would always fly over. So the lanes always hooked early at night, and, they hooked a lot anyway. And so I kept trying to move in and everything. And Ernie goes, Tappy, he goes, you're doing this wrong. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, he says, you keep trying to move left. He goes, don't move left, move to the right. And I said, what do you mean move to the right? He goes, yeah, move to the right, get right on top of it and throw right into it and let it stop. I'm like, I'd never done that. It's crazy, Mm-hmm. So anyway, I tried a couple of times, everything through the nose. But I only tried it. I just tried it a little bit. I didn't, I didn't really think much of it, and because that's what he always did. He would, when they got brutal and they were left a third arrow or whatever, that's how he went right. He went to the right. He'd throw further right and go at it, and his ball would get there and it would hook out and it would start. I mean, his ball's going to the right and he's shooting the 5-pin to the left. I mean, you couldn't beat that guy when that happened, when he did that. So anyway, I bowled pretty good the first block, and they were bowling the night block, and I couldn't get anything going. I'm shooting like 190. I'm not really leaking oil, but I'm not doing anything either. So we got still got about 4 games to go. I'm like, I got to do something. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let me try out what that knucklehead said. I'm thinking this to myself. So anyway, I took a ball that hooked a little bit more. I moved my feet to the right, my eyes to the left. 240, 250, 240, 260. I'm like, holy crap. Wow, look at this.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, he's right. So so the next day I bowled good again. I made the finals, and I'm like, geez, it's all right. So then when I got into the finals, it developed again, and it developed enough to where it was almost like I felt like I was bowling on a house shot.
Yeah.
And it'd go with a couple games ago. I was on the show pretty much the entire time. But with a couple games to go, things got kind of hairy again, and of course you when you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of money. I mean, you bowled good the week before. The swing should be a little bit looser, but hey, different week, different situation. That there's a big difference between finishing 6th and making a show. You finish 6th, you don't have a chance to win.
Sure.
So anyway, I bowled. In fact, speaking of Parker. I bowled Parker the game before the position round, and I think I had one double, and he beat me like 206 to 203. So now, whoever I'm going to bowl Richie Wolf in the position round game, and whoever wins that game is going to make the show.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, you know, and of course they're both lefties. It's a little bit better on the left than the right at that time of night, anyway. You know, and so our games almost parallel each other, and like I struck the first frame, and Richie bowled two frames, so he struck his first frame. He baby split and missed it, and my second frame, I baby split and made it. And that was the difference, in the game. And then I got to the show, and you know, by the grace of God, you know, things just worked out really well. I was behind every game.
Yeah.
Going into the 10th, and I basically struck out every game, you know, to win, or got a double in the 10th to win every game.
Bo Burton kept on the show. Bo Burton kept talking about how nervous you were. Were you really nervous?
No. If somebody called me in 5 minutes and they said, Charlie, we want you to come and speak in front of 1,000 people in 10 minutes, I could do it. You know, and nothing's worse than trying to speak in front of people. That's what, you know, and I mean, it's a little bit different bowling, but but actually what happened is when I found out is my adrenaline would get going. So go again, because if I would bowl a show, before I bowl a show, I would start sneezing like crazy. Oh. And it was almost like, what the hell's going on? I haven't sneezed all week, you know. And all of a sudden, so I think it was after that show, I went to the doctor and I said, listen, I get going and I'm not nervous. I got my wits about me, but I don't have, you know, for whatever reason, I'm shaky, you know. And so I went to the doctor and I told him what had happened. And he says, that's just adrenaline, you know. And I said, well, I said, yeah. I said, he goes, listen, he gave me some Xanax. and I took his, and I, speaking of that, no, actually it was much, it was right after that. So anyway, that later that year, it's later on in the year, and my wife was bowling in Vegas, and I went to Vegas to watch her bowl, and for whatever reason we were at each other's throat for like the whole time, and I hadn't even practiced in over a week. Huh. And so my next tournament was in St. Louis. So anyway, I left. I was going to fly out on Friday, I think it was, and I didn't fly out until Tuesday. The tournament's on Wednesday. And so I got to say, I left the van. I flew out of Midway in Chicago. So flew to Midway, hopped in the car, drove to St. Louis. I got to St. Louis at 3:00 in the morning, and I hadn't thrown a ball in a place. I didn't even know what squad I had. And so I checked into the hotel. It's 3:00 in the morning. I shut the door, and somebody's pounding on the door. Open that door, you horse's ass! And okay. You know, I took a couple Xanax. Why care? You know, so I opened the door. And I did. Of course, I thought about it after the fact. I'm like, "What are you doing? Are you nuts?" So I opened the door, and guy goes, and there's two guys standing there. And he said, "Oh, you're not the guy we want." I goes, "Okay, thanks." Door, you know, just sleep. So I call a buddy of mine at 7:30 in the morning. I goes, "Hey, what squad do I have?" He goes, "You got A." And I goes, "Okay." So I went through that tournament, led it, made the show, won it, taking Xanax. Never had an issue. And now I haven't never had an issue since.
Wow. And you won that one in the championship match against Marshall. And you had said, you were talking to me before the show about how you were on Sweep the Rack. And you said on that show, if you ever got on the show and if you bowled Weber or Holman, the last thing you wanted to do was rile those guys up. So you're in the championship match against Holman. How do you manage that?
Just throw your ball and get the hell out of the way. There's, and I'm still that way. It just, I mean, there's times where I'm just inside, I'm ready to blow. I just want to smack it off, and nah. And that's the end. Well, and where that came from is back in I think it was 80. It was either 82. I led the tournament at Gable House, and I bowled Pete in the position round, and he couldn't get a strike. He was madder than hell. I couldn't really get a strike. That was another game where I went.
Oh, hope he's still there. Maybe we'll give him a second and see if he comes back here. Hope he comes back. It might take just a second here. So, wow, some great stories. Well, we wait to see if he can make it back. Yeah, that championship against Marshall that we were talking about was his third title, the Toyota Classic, and yeah, he won that one, and after that, I'm hoping he can come back to tell me how much longer he was on the tour and what made him stop, because eventually he went into some PBA 50 events and won a couple of those. Yeah. I want to try and get to a couple of the comments here while we're waiting. Max, our local bowler here in Eau Claire, says, you got to be good to be lucky. Good bowlers make their own luck, and great bowlers don't need luck. And we're back.
Yeah. My internet went out. Sorry.
That's all right. I was just go ahead. So you were kind of halfway through there.
Yeah. So anyway, I was bowling Pete Weber in a position round at Gable House in L.A. Yeah. And that was another one. I start strike, spare, double, beat him 2-0 to 190, and I ended up leading the tournament. I lost to George Pappas, but that was another one where he just couldn't get it going. He just couldn't get it going and everything. And I'm not going to do anything to rile him up to fight, because if he gets fired up, that's when he gets. And what happened is that later on in when we bowled in New Jersey, it was the same thing. I got Pete in the position round. And he was kind of the same way. And I'm like, I'm not going to do anything to rile him up, because if he gets riled up, he gets pissed off, then he starts bowling better. Well, John Jowdy was sitting in the back, and he said something to Pete. He goes, so come on, you got to get, so you got to get fired up here and all this stuff like this. And, he got fired up, and he beat me in a position round, and because all of a sudden he got the way he was on television.
Sure.
And I thought, the other guy that's the same way is Marshall. Yep. If I do anything to piss him off, it's going to rile him up. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just going to bowl. I'm going to be as boring as I possibly can, and so that's why, and it's just because that's their personality, and to me, but I mean, on the inside, I'm ready to blow too, but I'm not going to do it, because I'm not going to make him mad. I'm not going to wake him up.
Right.
So that's why.
Sure.
That's why. It's just for my own survival.
Yeah. So when did you leave the tour, and I guess what brought you to that decision?
I left after 91, full time anyway. It just got to be getting a little bit older. You know, it wasn't like I was, turning 60 or anything like that. But that things were changing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things were changing. I mean, resin, a little bit more resin was coming in. I mean, I remember in St. Louis, I think it was 90. It was a year or two after I won. It was either 90 or 91 is when they introduced the teal rhino, and I think the sumo, if I remember right. It was 90 or 91, and they drilled them for us on Friday, and I never saw my ball do that ever. It got down the lane and took a left. And so, pins are flying all over the place, but if I didn't hit the pocket, it was a split. Yeah. So what's the difference if you bowl, you bowl 210 with 2 triples or 210 with 3 doubles? It's still 210, but at least, and I think that was the last show that Dick Weber made. The last PBA show was in St. Louis that year, because they drilled him a sumo on Friday after the Friday, and I'm almost positive that happened. But boy, oh boy, they were just atomic bombs. It's like, and so that, and then little by little, all of a sudden the playing field was, went from that to that, and not being able to keep up, and you only got so many. I had a really nice year in '89. That bought us our house, and and then things like that. And then 90, it was just a really, really shitty year, and it's like I can't. I can't do it. And then 91, I had a little bit of a comeback. I bowled pretty good that winter. Made the show in New Jersey. And I thought, well, all right, let's just keep going. Let's just ride it out and see how far it goes. And that summer was bad, and it's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. It just wasn't fair. This wasn't fair to my wife and, our family situation. And, because I didn't feel good about going, sure. This is a lot of this is mental, it's a lot of mental goes into that. And I said, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna take that chance. So I got into the pro shop business. That's when I got into the pro shop business, and I bowled a little bit afterwards. I cast a time or two, and but I was never really going to be any threat, because there was a few more foreign guys like Mika came in, and that type of thing. And I'm not, the rev rates and speed are higher. Their carry percentage is much better. And I could still have a day or something like that, but that it's just too few and far between, to really take a chance. And then when I turned 50, it was a little bit different, because now I'm the younger guy. So all of a sudden you go from, hey, and it's like Barney's going through right now. It's easy. It's easy for him. Because now he's got a shim on the left. He can play further left than anybody. But now now I'm 20 years older. So now it's back to the same thing again. Yeah. And now it's a little bit harder. I bowled good this year. I made every finals I bowled. Made some good runs, and but I go out there, I'll go out there and bowl, and I know I can still catch. I might be able to sneak on a show. The plan was before COVID hit was I had been with another ball company, and then I had signed with Radical, because Mo Pinnell had asked me to sign with Radical for years, and I didn't do it because I haven't been having so much success with the other brand. And so I made the show. I made the show here in Jackson 2 years ago, and I was 68 years old. If I'd have won, I'd have been the oldest PBA50 champion ever. And so, Mo had called me after my contract ran out and said, listen, he goes, I think he could still win. And I thought I could still win. I still think I could win, and he goes, let's put our heads together and let's make it happen, because I know that you can do it. And I said, okay, I'm in, let's do it. And so anyway, well then obviously COVID hit, and that kind of set us back. And Mo had been here. Mo came to Kalamazoo a couple times, and we spent the entire day working on things. Well, this works, this doesn't. Let's do this, let's do that. Well, and then the last time I saw him, he didn't look well at all, and then he ended up he ended up passing away, here a few months ago, and so that was that. And then that too, kind of like, well, I mean, it's not that I still can't do it. I know what we wanted to do, and things like that, and but it's just a little bit. It's a little bit different now. The influx of the 50-year-old guys that are coming in now. Oh my God! They beat your brains out 20 years ago. They're 50 or 70. It's not like they're 20 or 40. It's quite a difference. Even though I'm probably bowling better now than I ever had. I'm not smarter now, and I can figure it out more. Sure. And the ball technology's obviously helped. And if I have trouble, I call Mark, I call Del Warren. I got local guys here that I rely on that are really, really good, and so you got a good base around people that are willing to help you, and I got a great support system at home. My wife couldn't be any better, and it was funny, with the drag racing thing, the way that came about is my stepson started racing, and I had raced for years, and I hadn't been to a track in over 40 years. So if I go, I want to build a car. It's like you might as well be on coke, because that's how it is, and so anyway, I wouldn't even go to the track more, because I know that what was going to happen. So he bought that Mustang and had it sitting in his garage, and at the time him and his wife happened to live down the street. And he goes, well, I'll sell you the car and everything. My wife goes, why don't you buy the car? And I said, no, you don't understand. That's like him handing me a bill for $15,000, right? Because that's a never-ending
project. Right?
Well, I had some years earlier, probably 10 years earlier, I had bought some penny stock, and long story short, it went belly up, and I kept getting this stuff from the Securities Exchange Commission, that we have a record of. You had this many shares and everything. It was like when you get one from a credit card. It was a class action suit, and I'd been getting them for years. It's just and one time I'm sitting here and I get another one. Let me see if I got this stuff. So I send it in. A couple months later, I get another letter. Well, our records match, but there was a split, and blah blah blah. And I said, well, and I have that paperwork too, and I send that in. So it's 6 months later, and I come home from work one day, and I got another letter from the SEC, and I flip it over. Securities exchange number, and settlement number, whatever, check. It's a check. So what the hell check? I flip it over. It's $11,000. My wife hands me the checkbook. Says, go down the street and buy the car. Go down the street and buy the car right now. Here's the checkbook. This is money that fell from the sky. Who gives a crap? I said, okay. That's how I got the car. And so here's another one of her theories. I could go out in the street and stand on my head and she wouldn't care. Try to dodge traffic. Go ahead. So what she said, she goes, listen, she goes, everybody in my family passed away very young. Okay. My brother died when he was 39. Oh. My mother just barely saw 60. My mother was 60. My father was 60. They all died of heart disease. And when I turned 50, when I had a physical, because I know I was gonna go bowl, and I wanted to get in shape and stuff like that. And the guy that was the physician's assistant was a customer of mine in the pro shop. So I went and I had a stress test and a blood test and everything. And I came home from playing golf one day, and it was like 90 degrees outside. And I walked in the house, and my mother-in-law said, you got a call from your doctor. And my doctor called me on Saturday,
Yeah.
And so anyway, I got the number, and it was just my friend Al. And I just figured he was going to call me because he wanted something done with a bowling ball, So he goes, "Hey, Charlie," he said, "listen, we got your test back, and it shows, it shows where something's not right." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well," he says, "I think we got a blockage." He goes, "Don't." He said, "Listen, don't panic." He goes, "What were you going to do today?" I said, "Well, I'm going to get up on my roof and patch this." He said, "No, you're not going to do that. It's 90 degrees out. You're going to stay quiet until I see you on Tuesday." And at that time, I had smoked. I had smoked from the time I was a kid, And so this was on Saturday, and I made up my mind to quit smoking on Sunday. And so I got through the entire day until the end, and I was bouncing off the walls. And I had another cigarette on Sunday, and then I had a cigarette on Monday when I woke up, and I said, "Listen, if you're going to quit, you got to quit."
Yeah.
So I just threw them away, and I've never had another cigarette since, and that's been 21 years ago. And so I went in, had a blood test Tuesday. Thursday, I saw the cardiologist, and he goes, "Yeah," he says, "you're blocked." He says, "about 98% in that artery." And so he goes, "Have you had any?" And I've had no symptoms at all, of any kind of heart issue, no nothing. And he said, "Well, we got to take care of it." I said, "Okay." I said, "When do you want to do it?" He goes, "How about right now?" He goes, "Okay, let's go." So anyway, we had to do it the next day because of insurance. But I went in on Friday. They had the thing here. I got to watch the whole thing. It was fascinating, Yeah. Went in there, opened it up, haven't had a cigarette since, and I'm setting family records. So that's what she said. She goes, "You know what?" She goes, "I don't care." She goes, "You're living longer than anybody else in your family.
Yeah.
Go do what the hell ever you want to do." So I'm going bowling, going out to, playing hockey, whatever, but I'm not playing hockey. But anyway, so that's her theory, is that go ahead and do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's been. And so, thank God she's the greatest woman in the world. I mean, I love her to pieces. She just, and she's a good athlete. She understands what I'm going through. I mean, she's been on four ABC and USBC national championship teams. In fact, with Gina Derozewski and Jill Albrecht.
Oh,
they won a national championship 3 times together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Jill, Marlis, Gina, Wendy McPherson, and Carol Giannotti. So
quite a team.
They were the best team in the country for probably 5 or 6 years.
I believe it.
They won 3 times in 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So she knows her stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me get into some of these comments. So when you popped off and back on again, I was talking about how Max, who has all 4 of these, he's from the local area here. He says you got to be good to be that lucky. Good bowlers make their own luck, and great bowlers don't need luck. Is that the theory you go by too? The
more the practice, the luckier you get.
That's a way to look at it too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true. That was I was telling you the story about Walter, but Walter's still like that. Walter's beat up. He's got arthritis in his hands. He just had a hernia operation, all that stuff. The guy's practicing on Facebook.
Yep.
And you think it's luck that this guy wins tournaments when he's 65 years old? Yeah, no. He's practicing.
Yeah.
And it's like when the senior tour come around, I'll go out and I'll hit it. I hit it hard. There's Rick Benoit has a thing called Bowl U. It's fantastic. And there's guys, it's funny, there's guys that I bowl with and they said, "Boy, I never see you practice." I'm at the dog park with a bowling pin, throwing bowling pins, throwing a thing called an orb. I'm out in my backyard throwing bowling pins. I'm in my basement throwing a Nerf football into you don't have to go to the bowling alley.
Right.
And I still do that. That I had an issue with my footwork one time. I watched Chris Barnes's footwork probably his footwork on YouTube probably 100 times, probably easily 100 times. And I'm in my hallway doing that probably 1,000 times, literally 1,000 times, and getting that right, and then taking it out on the lanes. And like when I do my instructing, if it's a nice day, and especially somebody, if it's like a younger person that throws the ball slow, especially like a young girl that's maybe a sophomore or a freshman in high school that weighs 100 pounds soaking wet, I'll take them outside and have them throw pins. And I say, look, you put the pin in your hand, take a normal approach, throw it as far as you can, and throw it as hard as you can, but you have to be in balance. And they'll go out there and they'll do that for 20 minutes. And they come in, I say, put the ball in your hand and throw the ball like you just threw that pin. And you would not believe it.
Huh.
You would not believe it.
Wow.
And this is just 20 minutes. And these are kids that they're like, what, are you crazy? You're senile? Or, yeah, but I am, but it's stuff like that. And it's stuff like that. It's just, phenomenal. And when you got guys as brilliant as Benoit and Mark and Del Warren, and we got a guy here, Andy Schneebelt, that's in Jackson, Michigan. He's fantastic. He's fantastic. Then when I was coaching college, if I couldn't figure out something, he'd be the guy I'd call, or I'd say, look, go see him. He's got all the video stuff and everything like that. And doing that and talking to these guys and knowing what these guys know and being able to pass that along, that's every bit as exciting, if not more exciting now than going out and bowling.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and so I'm knocking it around to where I might even try to at this point, the lessons are okay, but actually setting up a business to do this now.
Oh, cool.
Because it's that much fun, and it's really good when you see, and it's a process, and you see the fruits of your labor. All of a sudden, just 2 months ago, this kid couldn't even put one foot in front of the other. Now he's posting every shot. He's averaging 170.
His success is your success.
Absolutely, yeah, and it makes you feel great, and a lot of these kids are good athletes. They play other sports and things, and so they understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big thing. And I want to get them to ask the questions. I don't want to keep telling them, why is this? Why is that? Why is this? Why? Okay, perfect. The more they ask and the more they find that the easier it is for them. Easier it is for me and easier it is for them.
Sure.
So
yeah. So Max is enjoying the stories. He has great stories. That's what makes this show rock. Thanks for sharing. He wants to know where the merch is, and that's on me because I don't have the merch yet. And he also asks what you think about the USBC Open Championships. That's kind of a broad question, so I don't know if he's talking format, lane conditions.
I to be honest with you, I've never bowled them a lot because I'm not. Okay. I've never been a real big fan of them. Even years ago, I don't know, and I don't really know why. I really don't know why. I don't know if I just didn't. I don't know. I just never really cared for it. I mean, it's fun. It's fun. And I bowled them a few times, but I mean, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go to fly to Reno and spend $1,000 or $2,000 to go do it. It's not. I don't think it's worth it. If I was out there, and the PBA 50 was in Vegas or something, and the tournament was in Vegas or in Reno or something, I'd probably do it. But yeah, I just never been really excited about that. But that's like another thing, you take like Jeff Riggles and the guys like him and a lot of guys from it, they live for that tournament.
Yep.
And that's true, and they're successful at it. Mm-hmm. And it's like us studying tour patterns and things like that. They go see Mike Jazz now. And they support what he's doing, Jasno says, okay, here's what's happening. And then you go out there and you win the thing. How much more thrilling can that be?
Yeah.
It's but that's their thing. That just happens not to be my thing.
Sure.
But it's wonderful when those guys do that. I mean, that's a special thing.
Yeah.
Because all the preparation that goes, these guys don't win it by accident.
Right.
It's not an accident that it's teams from Minnesota, it's teams from Wisconsin, it's teams from Michigan that win these things.
Mm-hmm.
They basically train for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's no different than bowling on tour for money. This is their tour.
That's their tour.
So but me, I just never really had a big inkling about it.
Yeah.
So might have been when I threw the ball straight up in the air on an 8-bagger. But that was with the guys I sent you the picture of.
Oh, okay.
With those guys. So
I should let me see if I should still have that. Yeah. Must be this one, right?
That's them.
That's them.
we won that year. We won the St. Paul City tournament. We won the state tournament. Those guys were so much fun. Oh my God! I got a good story about one of them. You got time for it?
Yeah, we're going long, but yeah. Why don't you tell it and then we'll go off the sheet.
I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I'm not going to tell you which guy it is. It's not me.
Okay.
It's not me. Okay. So anyway, Pfeff, you remember that they have the Mensch tournament in Milwaukee? The Hank Mensch.
Marino?
No, it was real popular. It was a real popular tournament. And they had it. It's like MUENCH.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember, but I moved back and forth.
The men's tournament was really, really popular.
Yeah.
And people bowl it from all over the country. From all over the country to bowl it. Well, anyway, so this particular guy, I'm not telling you who it is, but this particular guy came to Milwaukee to bowl it, and he was staying at the Pfister Hotel.
Okay.
Is that place still there, by the way?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sure is.
So anyway, he's sitting at the bar of the Pfister Hotel, and there was a young lady at the bar that he was, he was what to talk to, And anyway, so he says she says to him, well, what are you doing here? Now I'm going to tell you, I never believed this story. I had heard it several times from him and from other people, and I had never believed the story. Okay, so anyway, so he's sitting at the bar and he's talking to this woman, and he says, she says, well, what are you doing here? He goes, well, I'm here bowling this tournament. He goes, well, what are you doing here? She goes, well, I'm here to see David Brenner. Remember the comedian David Brenner?
Yeah. For
those of you that aren't 110 years old like me, David Brenner was a very popular comedian back in the 70s and 80s, and I mean he was on every show there was, and he had hosted the Tonight Show. He was really, really popular. Well, anyway, so David Brenner was appearing at the Pfister Hotel. So she goes, I'm here to see David Brenner, but the show is sold out. And he goes, well, what are you talking about? He goes, I can get us in. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'm friends with David Brenner. She says, I'm friends with, she goes, you know David Brenner? He said, yeah. He goes, let me see what I can do. He goes, why don't you go to your room and get changed? And then here's my room. Call me when you're ready. And he's telling me, he goes, Charlie, he says, I'm just trying to get what's the screw. So anyway, so she goes, yeah, okay, So anyway, they get in the elevator, and he pushes the button, and here's somebody, hey, hold the elevator, right? So this guy comes up, holds the elevator door, and who comes in behind him but David Brenner?
Oh my gosh!
Right. Well, now here he is with the girl, and this guy and David Brenner. So he goes up to him and he goes, "Hey, Dave, it's me, Fred." Fred. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, but that's not his name. But he goes, "Is it Fred?" He goes, "Remember?" He says, "Remember? From St. Paul." He goes, oh yeah. He goes, what are you doing in town? He goes, well, I'm here bowling a tournament. He goes, oh yeah, that's right. You know what? And he's telling me the story, and I'm saying, you're so full of crap. You right? So anyway, so he gets passes to the show. He gets,
Oh my
passes
gosh.
in the elevator, right? So anyway, so the girl calls him.
Yeah.
She goes up to his room, and she gets to the room, and he's finishing getting ready because they're going to go to the show. So anyway, so she says to him, she goes, would you like a drink? He goes, yeah, sure. You know, because they had cocktails in the room. You know, This is a fancy place, right? Cocktails in the room. So anyway, she hands him the drink, takes 2 sips. That's the last thing he remembers. So it's the last thing he remembers. He wakes up. Everything is gone. She robbed him blind. She robbed him blind. So money, everything, right? So anyway, so he's telling me this story, and I said, you know what? Bullshit. You know, this is the right. So it's years later, and I'm on the radio show in the afternoon with that Mike Edwards. David Brenner is the guest on the show. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So they go to a commercial, and I pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And I said, Mr. Brenner, I said, just listen, do you remember years ago, it's probably 5 or 6 years ago, because I had just started bowling with these guys, and so this had been in the 70s sometime, late 70s, whatever.
Sure.
So I said, do you remember a guy in Milwaukee? I said, getting in and he said, yeah. He said he was a bowler. I said, that's true? He goes, yeah. He was, how did that turn out? It was true. I can't believe it. You know, it's like, oh my God. Oh, jeez.
Wow.
So the story was true. And David Brenner confirmed it.
Holy cow.
But this guy has changed his life, and he just kind of doesn't even want to talk about it anymore. But but it was incredible. It was incredible, because I thought that story was, you never let the truth get in the way of a good story, but
right.
But this was actually true. Oh, geez.
Oh, wow. All right, so let's take it off the sheet. You know the drill. We ask all our guests to challenge somebody else to come on the show, somebody who's passionate about the sport of bowling, has an interesting story to tell. Doesn't matter if they're a beginner or a top pro or anywhere in between. So, Charlie Tapp, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
Paul Wolf.
Okay. And how come?
Paul Wolf, his mom Fran was the tour director for the LPBT, and he bowled on tour for a while, and now he just started coaching Avila College in Kansas City, and I think he would be great.
All right,
he's got a lot of good stories. He ran the pro shop at the Showboat when it was in its heyday, and I think he'd be terrific.
Okay, well, Paul, if you're watching, if you see this, and you're interested in taking Charlie up on the challenge, let me know. You can email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com or direct message me on Facebook, and we'll get it done. Wow, Charlie, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing the stories. Great stuff.
Thanks, you're welcome. These are fun. These types of shows are, and it's like Big Mike said, it's a little bit different, a little bit different type of format, a little bit different type thing, and it's great. I mean, like Beef and Barnesy, Mike and Rob, yourself, and I'm sure there's several others out there, this is great for the game. People like to hear old people talk before they're a soil additive, this is great. I really appreciate it, and I want to thank Dasha. The thing with Dasha is that I had just met her.
Yep, she said like just a day or two before.
We were bowling an adult junior tournament in Lansing, and my wife was there, and he was talking, and Dasha was going to quit bowling, and she went to the Ladies Hall of Fame dinner when Wendy McPherson got there. In fact, I was going to have tell you, Wendy also would be a great guest.
Hey,
And
try and find her too.
yeah, we can find her. And she said that Wendy's speech was an inspiration for her to keep going.
Oh.
And
look
Dasha,
at what happened.
Yeah, just Dasha's such a what a great kid.
Yeah,
just then talented, artistic, and just really, really nice. I'm so glad I got to meet her.
Yeah, so. Me too, because that made all this possible.
Yeah. It's fun. You can blame her. So if you go down to 180, you'll know why.
Yeah.
You blame it on her.
All right, everyone. Our next live stream coming up Monday, November 22nd. If you're from Milwaukee, you probably know the name John Magna. He's coming on the show to talk about his bowling story, his life in the pro shop business, etc., etc., etc. Until then, be just and fear not. We'll see you next week.